Hello and welcome to another edition of TSL Talk. And Adam Smith, there's plenty of news in the TSL at the moment.
Yeah, a lot happening, and I'm sure we've got a bit to get through, so let's get right into it, I reckon.
Yep, the AFL Tasmania Chief Executive Scott Wade had a press conference this morning, and as usual their licences were on the agenda. They're pretty much saying now that the new club that's going to be brought in from the Kingborough will be next season. He said once the decision made, there's no point in going on that extra year if the club's got nothing to play for.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, especially recruiting wise and things like that. Who's going to go and play? You know, I guess we'll use Hobart as an example of, oh, let's go and play a year there and then not going to be in the TSL. So I can understand that, and probably just intensifies the battle that Hobart and North Hobart will be going through for the rest of the season.
He also said that they're pretty confident that he virtually said that Kingborough is going to come straight in, but it's advanced far enough that they're ready to go and come straight in the TSL.
Yeah, well, they were the dominant side in the SFL last season, winning all three flags. You know, they showed some good form towards the end of it. I mean, there's always been the talk that it'll be an amalgamation of Kingborough and Huonville and the clubs down there, but I don't know, that's got Southern Cats written all over it, doesn't it? That, you know, you've got to get your supporters and your volunteers and things like that. So having a more Kingborough-based, you know, they've obviously got the foundations and the structure and the oval, and I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, it does seem to make common sense, and you were down at Lauderdale and both coaches had some interesting things to say.
Yeah, they did. It was an interesting one, sort of a couple of things, both with the sub-rule and the umpires bouncing of the ball, so you know, that'll wash out no doubt later in the week as well.
Brent Plant was talking about the subbing rule, and he basically said that they used Darren Winter, who was never going to play because he's injured, just because they had to have a sub.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think you wrote an article last week about it, and they're going to review it. But you know, this is what Brent had to say about it. But yeah, Darren Winter was never going to play.
Like we got Darren Bannerman, Russell Robertson come back in next week. You know, who goes?
Would Bannerman, if the game was tighter at all, play? He was just
Bannerman's injured, so we haven't got the resources for a sub. You know, so and I was true to my word, what I said the other day. So we haven't got the resources. Subs compulsory, so we use an injured player.
And the Lauderdale coach, Darren Winter, had some comments on the bouncing of the ball.
Yeah, Windy's an interesting one. He always likes to, you know, sort of stir the pot a little bit. You know, he wasn't having a crack at them in terms of whinging about how it influenced the game. He said it had no bearing on it, but just the whole concept of the ball being bounced by the umpires and I guess the way it affects the ruck stoppages.
AFL probably need to get their head out of the sand and realise that nobody can bounce the ball up straight. So if they want a ruckman to get hurt, keep bouncing it, because nobody bounces the ball straight. Now, this is not a crack at the umpires. It's absolutely ridiculous to say the AFL wants the umpire to bounce the ball up to start every contest. It doesn't happen in any other game that we're hoping that the umpire can bounce the ball straight up. It's absolutely ridiculous. So hopefully they'll get their head out of the sand at some stage and start throwing the footy up so someone doesn't get hurt.
And just going from the results so far, I mean, we haven't seen that Launceston have hit their stride yet, but they're undefeated. But from the outside, it looks like there's three top teams, Burnie, Clarence and Launceston, and then pretty much daylight.
Yeah, looking a bit like last year, isn't it? The same three sides here again. You know, Launceston spoke to Anthony Taylor yesterday, and they're missing, you know, a third of their premiership side, so they'll only get better as the year goes on. But Burnie were really clean on the weekend, and Clarence, well, they're probably, as you wrote, showing that the rebuilding phase is not really intact, is it? They've got a bit more depth there, and you know, these other clubs really have a challenge now to bridge that gap.
Yeah, well, the round started on Friday night with Clarence big winners over a very disappointing North Hobart.
Yeah, North Hobart were touted to be big improvers this year, and so far they haven't really shown a lot, have they? It's been very disappointing, and you know, they've picked up a couple of key plays, but they just don't seem to be gelling. And when you get smashed by 100 points, you know, there's obviously a few issues there. And
Hobart jumped out of the box against Glenorchy, and it was looking like a real upset, but Glenorchy found their form, led by Jay Bowden, and pretty convincing winners.
Yeah, Jay's a class player, and you know, I think Ben Beams obviously had a few words at quarter time and would have been a little bit worried, wouldn't he? But they fought back, and you know, maybe that can get some momentum rolling for them.
And Lauderdale was sort of put in their place a little bit and showed how far they're off the top teams at the moment.
Yeah, they're probably not that far away. It's just, you know, the things, the fundamentals that the top sides always show, the cleanness of the ball, the delivery, you know, the skills. That, you know, Burnie probably just 5-10% better. Lauderdale weren't allowed to play like they could, so you know, they'll take a lot from it, and I'm sure that if they got another crack later in the season, they'd be better for it.
Depleted Launceston, but still got the job done.
Yes, Launceston, fighting along. They'll, you know, how they take this game against Burnie coming up, I'm not too sure, but when they get stuck getting some players back, they'll be better.
And North Lonnie bounced back and just, I suppose, did what they had to do against Devonport.
Yeah, the Knights would have been coming for Zane Littlejohn if they dropped this one after losing to South Launceston last week. So they're back on board, and you know, Devonport yet to win a game.
A couple of interesting games this week. Just to have a quick look at them. The grand final replay, but it's at West Park, Burnie and Launceston, and an interesting game, Glenorchy North Lonnie at KG5.
Yeah, that will be an interesting one, won't it? You've obviously got Glenorchy coming off that win, North Launceston first road trip. You know, probably evenly matched at this stage, and probably be big consequences for the team that loses.
Well, Adam, thanks for your thoughts, and remember, for all your TSL stories, pick up your copy of the Mercury or go to the Mercury online.